Good evening, everybody. I am delighted to see you all here tonight for the MTLA Awards dinner. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Stacy Temple St. John. And the reason you probably don't know me is because I do work comp, which I've been told is the less sexy version of a trial lawyer. So I wore my low-cut shirt tonight to make up for it. So, thank you for coming tonight to the awards dinner. We are delighted to have everyone here, and really just an extraordinary group of nominees this year. It is unfortunate that not everybody could win the awards because we really had an outstanding group of candidates this year. So let me get started. I don't have an agenda here other than I need to make some recognitions to some of our wonderful sponsors. Our gold sponsors are Fisher Video Conferencing and Independent Life. There's Carissa. Thank you, Carissa. She keeps us on track. Our copper sponsor is RMAC Risk Management and Asset Conservation. I don't see him here. We do have a Thursday morning, we had a Thursday morning breakfast sponsor this morning, which was the Alexander Blewett School of Law. So if you had breakfast this morning, if you weren't out too late the night before and you made it to breakfast, let's thank the law school for sponsoring that. And then our social hour sponsors this year were Heenan and Cook, Garrison Financial, and Tavern. Our dinner sponsors, the social hour sponsors are pretty important, I know. And then the dinner sponsors are Murphy Law Firm and Miller and Tortolot. Thank you. So with that, we are going to just jump into the program. Again, I am excited with the folks that have won these awards. It is an exceptional group. I was going to limit everyone's speeches to 2 minutes because I'm told I have judicial immunity now that I'm president, but I only have that for like another 18 hours, so I'm not going to limit anyone's speeches. But everyone, when they fall asleep, that means your time to stop. All right, with that, I'm going to have Hillary come up and present our Outstanding New Lawyer Award.
Everyone, can we just give Stacy like another round of applause because she is on her and she's the best. Not only Stacy, work comp and Great Falls, it's like all my favorite things. It's so awesome. Anyhow, I'm Hillary Carls. I'm super psyched to give this new lawyer or outstanding new lawyer award. I want to get it right to Connor Bottomley. I will tell you guys, I admittedly became really interested in Connor because we happen to both go to Lewis and Clark Law School, which is not the University of Montana. And in Montana, well, for me, it's been a big deal because there's not many of us. But since I met Connor, actually I learned there's tons of Lewis and Clark grads because we go to all these events and then we meet all these other Lewis and Clark grads and I'm like, oh wow, I guess we're not unicorns anyhow. But honestly, I kind of hooked on to Connor because I met his dad, Joe, at the MTLA Trial Academy when I was a baby lawyer and connected about Lewis and Clark Law School as well. And he was super kind to me and I thought he was cool. And so I was super interested in the Bottomley family. And then it turns out he ends up in Bozeman and he's a really great lawyer. He's acted as co-chair in trials. I've watched him observe trials, and right now, high five to him, but he's suing Tim Sheehy, which I think is super cool. So in addition to a young trial lawyer doing really, really great work, what impressed me about Connor is he wants to be involved in MTLA, and he's done really great work for the organization already. And one of the great benefits of this award is they get a 1-year membership on the board of directors. And I cannot tell you, I am very much looking forward to the next year and having Connor's voice on the board, and I really look forward to what he has to bring. And in my view, this is a wise investment in the future of great trial lawyers for MTLA. With that, everyone, let's welcome Connor.
All right. Thank you, Hillary, for the kind words in the intro. This is a huge honor for me. I feel really privileged. Thanks to everybody on the board who nominated and gave me the nod for this. I know a number of faces in the room, but I think more of you probably know my dad, Joe Bottomley. He retired about 10 years ago and certainly knew more people when he showed up today with my mom, Sheila. They drove from Portland today to surprise me for this, so really privileged to have you guys here with me. It's really been great to be involved in this organization. Joe was involved since the 80s or so, and I remember being about 8 or 9 years old and attending one of these ceremonies to see Joe get an award. I think also later, and maybe coming back from college, went to see him speak at a CLE in the Quatucknuck in Polson, and everybody was super warm and receptive. I think I was running errands and picking up kegs for this type of event for everybody to drink, and it's been really fun to be kind of coming full circle and getting involved in the organization since I moved back from Portland, where I was for law school and practiced for a few years until coming back at the end of 22. A few of you might also know my grandpa, Larry Anderson, at my first MTLA. He was a MTLA member back in the 80s in the twilight of his career, and have a ton of attorneys in the family. Monty Beck, a household name in MTLA, is my uncle. So for better or worse, I decided to carry on the family curse and go back to law school, unfortunately, after my dad stopped practicing. But it's been amazing to be back in this community and having so many people as resources and mentors outside of my firm. I joined the firm at the beginning of 2023, and the trials I was fortunate enough to be involved in this year and try with Justin Stelpus, and we're all kind of in the works when I joined. There was this class action that Nicole Seifert, I got to try with her as well. That was years in the making. The medical malpractice was also well in the making, so much of the credit and opportunity to try the cases really goes out to the people around me at the firm. An amazing staff, paralegals like Caitlin Pomeroy, who is in the trenches with us, keeping the wheels turning, the filings going. Huge shout out to Sid Best, just an amazing attorney to work with. She was working up these cases and just did a monumental amount of work on all of those before I joined the firm, and then in the months after joining the firm, all while preparing to welcome her baby Milo into the world shortly before these trials. And so it wasn't perfect timing to try the cases with you, Sid, but you laid the foundation for all the trials that we did, and really excited to try some cases with you in the future. A big thank you to John Ampson as well, who's been a huge mentor for me. John's just a wealth of knowledge in all things trial, litigation, strategy, gamesmanship, and a lot of the kind of skills that I wasn't necessarily getting at the bigger firm in Portland, in a kind of a corporate setting. But really, I wouldn't be here today on the stage if it wasn't for Justin Salpos. Really appreciate the opportunity to come work with you, but also to tag along and try and support you in the trials. You were the leading force for those trials, really complex medical malpractice and class action. And you set a high bar with excellence in really everything you do, from small cases to big ones, to from investigating, filing claims to trial and appeal. Really across your whole practice is really been an opportunity for me to learn a ton, and you've been an amazing mentor for me. So I appreciate that, and again, thanks for the opportunity. But otherwise, thanks so much for the membership. Really, this is an honor. It's been great to meet so many of you. I look forward to meeting more of you, and appreciate this award.
Congratulations, Connor. What an exciting award. So I guess I have to confess that I don't do what I'm told pretty much ever. And if it goes back, I think, to when I was little. You can ask my mom. But I was supposed to introduce more people, and I didn't, and so I'm sorry. But with regard to some distinguished guests we have, let me back up and introduce Judge Don Malloy is here with us. And then several of our speakers are here that I would like to recognize. Elizabeth Hanley. Greg Monroe. And I think he's on first thing tomorrow, so don't skip that one. Bruce Plaxon. Adrian Trinnell. Nate Wagner. And Adam Savin. Okay, better late than never. I did what I was told, so there's that. Our next award is for the Public Service Award. This award this year is really just, I'm so excited for this award. Our Public Service and Citizens Award this year goes to the attorneys and youth plaintiffs, respectively, in the Held case. Roger Sullivan, one of those attorneys, will make the presentation for us.
Thank you, Stacy. I think at a gathering like this, looking out at the attendees, the dominant emotion I feel is gratitude. And my gratitude tonight starts with the framers of the Montana Constitution, who bequeathed to us this extraordinary legacy that so many of us in this room have spent years trying to breathe life into, to forge into reality the promise that they bequeathed to us, including that most extraordinary of provisions that the state and each person shall maintain and improve a clean and healthful environment for this and future generations. And of course, the existential crisis that we face, as well as others around the world, is this climate crisis. And in facing it, we have come together with an extraordinary confluence of really talented attorneys. The organization that is just central to this effort is our Children's Trust, and we'll be hearing momentarily from Nate Bellinger. And also, we had the great opportunity to work with the nonprofit organization here in Montana, the Western Environmental Law Center, which the Western Environmental Law Center and Earth Justice, as many of you know, are also essential to the enforcement of this right. And finally, I want to give a shout out to this organization, because that DNA that is infused into our Constitution, we have to remember that the Declaration of Rights Committee was chaired by Wade DeHood. And I just feel like this organization, whose first statement of purpose and principle is to uphold and enforce the Montana and federal constitutions, I think that that carries over in a very manifest sort of way. So I always appreciate the efforts of this group, and especially Al and Mary. Thank you. So with that, I would like to first introduce Nate Bellinger, who's going to give a few comments on behalf of the receipt of the Public Service Award, and then Nate you'll introduce Grace. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger. It's really an honor to be here today, to be gathering this award with my co-counsel, with some of the plaintiffs, and thank you to MTLA for this opportunity. For those of you who don't know, Held v. State of Montana was the first constitutional climate trial in our nation's history, and that trial happened right here in Montana. It was our job as the trial lawyers to really elevate and empower the voices of the youth plaintiffs and to give them an opportunity to tell their stories in court. And what we heard at trial was deeply moving and passionate testimony from each of the youth plaintiffs, describing the climate injuries they're struggling to endure today, but also their deep love and commitment and passion for Montana and for a brighter future. It was really their courage, their stories that are at the heart of this case, and I'm so glad they're receiving an award today as well. In addition to the plaintiffs, we had an all-star cast of 10 experts testifying at trial, including Montana's top climate scientists, public health experts, policy experts, and others. And those experts, with a little bit of help from us, gave really clear and compelling science-based testimony, validating the concerns of the plaintiffs, their climate injuries, and ultimately proving a constitutional violation. Based on the strength of our plaintiff's testimony and our experts' testimony, following trial, we received what's been called the strongest climate decision ever issued by any court in the world. Right now, the case is pending before the Montana Supreme Court on the state's appeal, but we're feeling optimistic and confident in our chances based on the strength of our trial record, which is undisputed before the Supreme Court. So, as you can imagine, it takes a lot of resources and energy to pull off a trial like this, and I want to give a special shout out to Roger Sullivan and co-counsel Phil Gregory. They're seasoned trial lawyers. They've been doing this a long time. They've dedicated many, many hours to this case, all pro bono. They've donated money to Our Children's Trust, which is able to do this work based on individual donors and small family foundations. So really, really grateful for the opportunity to work with and learn from both of you throughout this case. We're always looking for more donors, more partners, so if you want to get involved in protecting the future for young people, let us know. We're around. And yeah, there's more work ahead. Held v. State of Montana, really, really groundbreaking climate precedent, and we're excited to keep working, hold the government accountable in Montana and elsewhere, and secure climate justice for these plaintiffs and other youth. So thank you to MTLA, to my co-counsel, also to my co-counsel who aren't here today at Our Children's Trust, Julia Olson and Matt Dos Santos, and at the Western Environmental Law Center, Barbara Chilcott and Melissa Hornbein. It's a pleasure to work with all of them. And to the plaintiffs, two of whom are here today, Micah and Grace. It's been such an honor and privilege to represent you and the other plaintiffs in this case. And with that, I will turn it over to Grace, one of the plaintiffs from Missoula, to say a few words as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here along with Micah. Wave, Micah. That's Micah. He's one of my fellow plaintiff. And thank you so much for honoring us and the other 14 plaintiffs that aren't here. Of course, as you just met some of our attorneys, and these attorneys from Our Children's Trust, McGarvey Law, Welk, they have been ridiculously supportive for the past almost 5 years now that I've been a part of this case. They provide free legal representation to Montana's youth. Our Children's Trust has covered all costs for a 10-day trial, complete with pool parties, to everything from that to opportunities to connect with plaintiffs around the country. They also have supported us emotionally and logistically through depositions, pretrial hearings, and trial, which were all very strange experiences that most people don't really understand, but I hear you all are very familiar with. For me, our trial was the most important opportunity I've had to say exactly what I wanted about how climate change harms me in Montana. So for 20 minutes, I spoke to a packed courtroom about my experiences with wildfire smoke and melting glaciers, my hopes and fears for the future, all of which I suspect you all understand as Montanans. I spoke to the defendants, my own state government, and asked them to take responsibility for their actions and to make a change. And I spoke directly to Judge Seeley, and through her, I put my trust in the legal system and its ability to protect citizens like me and my co-plaintiffs. People often ask me if it was scary, and I guess I was a little shaky going in, but mostly I felt powerful. I knew my friends were there, I knew my lawyers had my back, and it's not often that 16 youth have their voices heard clearly in a courtroom. And given the outstanding win we secured, I know we were heard. So thank you to my fellow plaintiffs for sitting at that podium and sharing your stories. Thank you to our attorneys for making all of that possible. And thank you all for standing behind us and for your continued support today. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone. I'm so excited for this win for you guys. And your win in the court, of course, is absolutely phenomenal. So congratulations. The next award is the Appellate Award, and Caitlin Boland-Arab is going to present that to us.
Good evening. The Appellate Advocacy Award goes to the trial lawyer who, in the preceding year, has exemplified the values of MTLA through outstanding appellate advocacy by advancing and protecting the rights of all Montanans in our civil justice system. And boy, did they need protecting this year. I am so glad MTLA is honoring Rafe Graybill with this award this year, because whether they know it or not, Montanans of all walks of life owe Rafe a debt of gratitude for his appellate advocacy on their behalf. In the last year, he has litigated the constitutionality of half a dozen abortion restrictions coming out of the last legislative sessions, ballot access issues for young people, for students, for supporters of reproductive freedom, and public access to policymaking documents that the governor claims fall within a sweeping executive privilege. And he has done this work from every role that an appellate lawyer can inhabit. He's been the appellant, the appellee, counsel for amici, and petitioner in original proceedings like writs of mandamus, which is something I only knew about on the bar exam. When an aggrieved public interest group comes to his office and says, in essence, is this legal? Can they do that? Rafe doesn't just say no and shake his head in disgust. He does something about it. He sued the state. He sued the governor. He sued the Secretary of State. And he and his co-counsel, some of whom are in the room, recently won attorney's fees under the private attorney general doctrine for their work enforcing the single subject rule and the rule that says you cannot amend legislation behind closed doors. Those kinds of transparency issues are fundamental to our civil justice system, and the court knows it, and the court awarded him fees for validating the court's own role as a constitutional check on legislative power. And he's had so much success in suing the governor, the attorney general, the legislature, the Secretary of State, that I think as they all run for re-election this year, they should adopt a new campaign theme song. I fought the law and the law won. Yeah. In all seriousness, though, when you have an executive and a legislative branch that runs roughshod over our Constitution, the Montana Supreme Court is our last line of defense. But they won't involve themselves in cases on their own. They need a case or controversy. And Rafe has obliged over and over again. But the suits he's filed are not run-of-the-mill personal injury suits. They require original research, written and oral advocacy of the highest caliber, and a true devotion to the values enshrined in our 1972 Constitution. So on behalf of MTLA, it is my very great privilege to present this award to my courageous, prodigious, and litigious friend, Rafe Grabo.
Courageous, prodigious, and litigious. I like that. I just want to say, you've heard me speechify enough if you went to last night's dinner, but real briefly, I want to say it is such a privilege being part of this organization and being part of the Montana Bar, because we're a small state of repeat players. We value professionalism and we value teamwork. And I look out across this room and I see folks that I have respected my whole life growing up in the shadow of this organization, folks who have actively co-counseled cases with me, folks like Jim Malloy that mentored me as a young lawyer and helped bring me into this organization, judges like Judge Malloy who ensured that I was on my best behavior and as prepared as possible every time I was in court and improved the quality of my practice. We truly have an excellent bar, and it's an honor to be part of it, and especially the people who are, who choose to be in this line of work we do at MTLA. One last thing I'll say too is these cases Caitlin talked about, and there's a lot of related cases that many of you are involved in, come at a time of immense pressure on courts in Montana right now, particularly state courts. We've had this change of power in the governor's office and in the legislature's office where ideology is charging ahead and trying to use the government to ostracize people, to attack fundamental rights. And our courts have largely been constitutional conservatives. They have defended the Declaration of Fundamental Rights, as articulated in our Constitution, fairly, independently, and neutrally. And cases like the cases I've brought, cases like the ACLU, Alex Rates in the back there brings, cases like Upper 7 or Roger Sullivan brings, are fundamentally conservative acts in Montana. And that's gotten in the way of a political agenda. And so I think it's incumbent upon all of us, particularly folks who aren't doing these cases day in, day out, speak up in favor of our court system. There is a ruthless, vicious, political, cynical attack on our courts, and our judges, by ethical code, are not going to defend themselves in the same way that you can. So please, where you see it, speak up, defend our courts. We have a good, neutral judiciary, and it is so important we preserve that in Montana. Thank you for this award. It is an honor tonight to be here with you.
Congratulations, Rafe, and thank you for all that you've done for the state of Montana. Next, I'd like to invite up here the Honorable Don Malloy to present the Career Achievement Award.
Thank you, Stacy. And the older you get, you start looking around, and Katie Boland is so well-spoken. But I can remember holding her when she was that big, and her dad would say to her, "Katie, twist the binky." And she had that thing, and it'd go around in her mouth. I think that's where she got her tongue trained. And then when Rafe was admitted, I admitted him to the federal bar at the old House Chambers in Helena. And I believe it was very close to when his grandfather who was the chair of the Con was there. So I look around, I see Lon Dale over there. I remember Lon from about 1962, and the reason I remember him is that he played end for the Choteau Bulldogs in football. And the reason you can remember him is he had this black helmet, nobody else had it, with like the Los Angeles Rams thing on his head, and had the pleasure, I think we lived in the same dorm to start. I've known Lon for a long time. And the Murphys, obviously have known them for a long time. And so it is great to be here. One thing, after we have trials, we developed a system where we ask jurors to fill out a form, and basically to find out, make sure that they've been treated correctly. But, you know, there are other things that are asked, you know, is there anything that we could have done that would have made it better in various things. And unfortunately, there's become a consistency in the reports as it relates to me, and that is, you take too long in voir dire. So it's a message to everybody here, speed it up. And it is the Career Achievement Award is going to Jim, my brother. And it is an honor to have been asked to introduce this year's recipient of the Montana Trial Lawyers Career Achievement Award. And the award is presented to my brother, James Patrick Malloy, a lawyer, a scholar, an athlete, a musician, and a family man. The award goes to a Montana trial lawyer who, no matter how active their current practice, have made enduring contributions to the citizens of Montana and the practice of law in our state. The award, in my view, recognizes and reminds all of us that law and the practice of law is a profession and it's not a business. And it also reminds us that there needs to be a balance in every lawyer's life and career. The law is a jealous mistress and requires a long and constant courtship. Justice Story noted in 1829. All of that may be true, but I think there needs to be room for something beyond the courtship in a legal career. So you only need to consider the list of prior recipients to grasp the importance of that observation and the significance of being named a recipient of the Career Achievement Award. The list of Montana legal lions that have been honored by this award include many, including the following and more. And some of you are too young to recognize these names, but I have known all of them. Gene Huntley, Laddie Colgrove, John Hoyt, Wade DeHood, Rich Anderson, Tom Bolin, Judge John McCarville, Judge Gordon Bennett, Milt Detsopoulos, Mike Malloy, spells his name wrong, but Xander, Greg Monroe, Justice Bill Hunt, Gene Gerussi, Dennis Connor, Terry Treeweiler, Randy Bishop, Tom Lewis, Mike Koch, Lloyd Sked, and there are other distinguished and honorable Montana trial lawyers that have received this award. But the achievement in a career, as each of those prior recipients have shown, spans far more than a lawyer's legal life. It includes a life of balance and one of virtue. The Greeks had two words that noted the characteristics that define an honorable life that is devoted to virtue as well as a commitment to something beyond yourself. It's a view that I believe acknowledges the meaning of professionalism as it applies to lawyers. And the two words, arete, which means an aggregate of qualities such as valor, virtue, making up a good character. And the other word is sophrosune, which is moderation, discretion, and prudence. The virtue on which the Greeks insisted was sophrosune involves knowing the limits which nature fixes for human conduct and then keeping within them. And James Patrick Malloy has lived each of these virtues and follows the lead of so many of those who have received the award from the Montana trial lawyers. I think it's important to make a short reference of the characteristics that marked Jim's career and manifest the idea of arete and sophrosune. So Jim graduated from Malta High School, and he did not go to college immediately. And I can tell you, having grown up in that family, that took courage. Jim chose to work instead, and he worked for a well-known Herald Live in Malta at the mercantile store. Then Jim, about a year later, matriculated at the University of Montana, and he graduated with nearly a 4.0 grade point, having spent 4 years in difficult classes and having only one grade in 4 years that was less than an A. While he was at the university, he walked on to the basketball team, earned a full ride scholarship, played Grizzly basketball for Judge Heathcote as a point guard, playing with Michael Ray Richardson, and Jim set records for the number of assists. After graduation, Jim staffed for Senator Max Baucus, traveling Montana's back roads, helping to ensure that our citizens would be heard, and assisting Senator Baucus in his representation of a complex society. Along the way, he married his best friend, Casey Chilton, and after they were married, they traveled in Europe and then settled down for a while in Ireland, and I think that's where Jim was exposed to so many other cultures and to so many different ideas. When they returned to the United States, Jim was accepted as a student at Notre Dame Law School. He graduated at the top of his class at the University of Notre Dame Law School. While there, he received a very prestigious award and scholarship named after Seventh Circuit Judge Roger A. Kiley. The fellowship provided a full tuition scholarship, and notably, Justice Amy Comey Barrett in 1997 became a Kiley Fellow during her education at Notre Dame. And while I get off on side stories, talking about arete and sophrosune and a well-rounded life, Judge Kiley played football for Notre Dame, and he was one of the first people in NCAA football to be an end or a receiver receiving passes from the Gipper. And interestingly, he graduated from law school and then went to be the head football coach at Loyola University in Chicago, then moved on to another coaching job, and then finally apparently decided maybe using his law degree would be a better use of his time. While Jim was a student at Notre Dame, he served along with another Montanan, Greg Murphy, as a research assistant for a professor and then later Seventh Circuit Judge Ken Ripple. And the research they assisted in and the writing that they helped was a book on constitutional litigation. After Jim graduated, he clerked at the DC Circuit Court for Appellate Judge Edward Tam. And most of the way through that clerkship, he was interviewed for a potential clerkship with Chief Justice William Rehnquist. As an aside, again, Judge Tam was at one time the third-ranking agent in the FBI. He was around the courts for a long time. But in 1920, as a youngster, he lived in Butte, Montana, so that may have been the affinity with he and Jim, Notre Dame, Irish, Butte. After Jim completed his clerkship, he practiced law in a very large firm in Portland, Oregon, but as so many of us have found, Montana's call was too great to resist. So he returned and joined the firm of Getz, Madden, and Dunn in Bozeman, and there he had the privilege of working with great lawyers, great Montana lawyers. When Jim moved on from Bozeman to Helena, he practiced with two other very wonderful lawyers, Jim Hunt and Randy Dix. Then Jim went to a period of solo practice, but after the solo practice, one of his office suite lawyers was Steve Bullock. And so Jim left the private practice and served about 3.5 years as the chief of consumer protection in the Attorney General's office, working with Attorney General Steve Bullock. When Steve was elected as governor, Jim joined the governor, Steve Bullock, and again as legal counsel. He finished his active career with his great friend and partner, Brian Gallick. I should note also that during his time, Jim has always been an active member of this organization and was the past president of the organization in the year 2020-21. So as is obvious from that brief history, the scope of Jim's practice extends across the horizon of legal issues. He's been involved with school funding litigation, personal injury cases, representing the state of Montana in litigation, class actions to benefit the citizens of our state, obvious public service, working as co-counsel or advisor to other lawyers in complex litigation, appellate advocacy in the Montana Supreme Court and the Ninth Circuit. And I think all of that adds up to simply a career of loving and enjoying the practice of law while maintaining a balance in his family life. So getting back to arete and sophrosyne, which I think is virtue and a balance in your life, Jim's career has been much broader and extends to a commitment beyond himself to his family, to the church, and to the community. As examples, his son Connor and Connor's family live and serve in Africa. His son Seamus is a lawyer involved in service here in the Missoula community. His daughter Caitlin, who joined us, is a doctor, married to a doctor in Arizona, and they are involved in service and spent a year in Africa teaching medicine in impoverished places. Jim was also a coach of various teams of youngsters, both in Oregon and in Montana. And his life's companion and wife, Casey, taught for many, many years in the Helena school system. And clearly, Jim and Casey instilled in their family the importance of community and service. Now, I have another aside. I should mention that given Jim's intellectual and constitutional expertise, At several basketball games he was in attendance, he apparently thought he was also an assistant referee. He loudly corrected the referee's calls on a number of occasions. But not only did Jim find out he was not needed or wanted as an assistant referee, but he found out that the First Amendment did not preclude his ejection from the gymnasium and from the games. Jim's always been an eager person to volunteer to help, whether in the law, in the community, or church. In short, Jim's career can be summed up in a simple phrase, lived by our parents and taught to him and to each of us by Doc and Mary Rita. And that is the simple phrase, service before self. That is, in my view, the sum of arte and sophros. And from my perspective, it is the singular characteristic of each of the giants of the law that has preceded Jim in receiving the Montana Trial Lawyer Career Service Award. I know there are those who believe a career is defined by fame or monetary accomplishments, but not Jim. Jim's life is the paragon of service before self. He has lived his entire life and career as a lawyer by being the best he could in everything he's done, not because he would be awarded financially or otherwise, but because that is what a citizen and a lawyer is supposed to do. Do your lawyerly duty with respect, whether your opponent is pleasant or unpleasant, and relinquish your personal sake to do what is right and ethical. As I mentioned at the beginning, it is an honor and a privilege for me to have been asked to introduce this year's honoree for the Career Achievement Award, my brother, my friend, and my fellow lawyer, James Patrick Malloy. And Jim's son, Seamus, is going to present the award.
Thank you, Don, for that generous introduction. Some of you knew Don when he was one of Montana's best trial lawyers before he took the bench. Others of you only know him as Judge Malloy. To me, he's just my big brother. Don, I have always looked up to you. Your contributions to the legal field and your unwavering commitment to justice is inspiring. I cannot thank you enough for your steadfast support throughout my life, especially throughout my legal career. Your guidance and mentorship have been a cornerstone of my journey, and I am deeply grateful. There is perhaps no one else in the room who has achieved more in their career than Don. So before I continue, would you please join me in recognizing my brother, Don, and my role model, Judge Don Malloy. Next, all of you know that practicing law is not something you can do alone. Even solo practitioners need the support of colleagues, friends, and staff to be successful. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the incredible colleagues I've had the privilege of working with throughout the years. Jim Hunt, one of the best lawyers I've known, was instrumental when we started our firm together upon my return to Montana. Brian Gallick, with whom I've shared significant cases and many years in practice, has been a steadfast partner and friend. Sandy Jackie, my longtime legal assistant, whose support was invaluable, and Steve Bullock, who provided me the opportunity to work with him on some of the most important issues facing the state on behalf of the people of Montana. Thank you for your trust and your leadership. I'd like to extend a special thank you to Al Smith and Mary. Your dedication to the MTLA and its causes has been extraordinary. Your hard work ensures that the MTLA remains a powerful force in the legal community, advocating for justice and supporting our members. I would like to thank the board. I am humbled and deeply honored to receive this award, especially when I consider the many deserving colleagues in attendance. I truly do not have the words to express what this means to me. They say that you should only care about the opinions of those from whom you would seek counsel. Well, nearly everyone whose opinion I value in the legal community is or has been a part of this organization. The MTLA is an incredible support network that I relied upon throughout my career. Whenever I needed guidance, I could count on the members of this association for valuable insight and respect. The MTLA has not only provided professional growth, but also a community of respected colleagues and friends. That is why this recognition means so much to me. It is always nice to be recognized for your achievements, but what makes this award the honor of a lifetime is that it comes from you, the members of the MTLA. I am truly humbled, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know that I am preaching to the choir, but as we are gathered here, I cannot pass on the opportunity to emphasize the critical role the MTLA plays in our community and politics. Our collective efforts through this organization to ensure that the voices of the injured and the vulnerable are heard and respected are essential to preserving the civil jury trial system and maintaining justice and fairness in Montana. In this election year, the survival of our system of justice, which was given to us by the delegates of the 1972 Constitutional Convention, is not guaranteed. It is under attack. We must all take an active role in supporting the candidates for office who will defend the institutions that make our work possible. Give generously, however you can, to the candidates who defend our state constitution and independent judiciary, and who will all fight for fairness. As I reflect on my career, I am proud of the work that I did and the results I was able to obtain for my clients. I was able to make a meaningful difference in many of my clients' lives. I am particularly proud of the school funding case where we held the Montana legislature accountable for adequately funding public education. I am also proud of the work I did in the Consumer Protection Office and in the governor's office, fighting against dark money and protecting the judicial system with Steve Bullock. Most of all, I am grateful for my clients' trust in me and their willingness to let me fight for them. Lastly, I want to thank my family, who have always been my bedrock of support. Anyone who knows me knows that my family is and always has been the most important thing in my life. To my 7 siblings who have always supported me, thank you for your love and your support. To my 3 children, Connor, Seamus, and Caitlin, who have each pursued careers helping others in their own way. I am immensely proud of you. My 6 grandchildren, who bring so much joy and hope for the future, remind me why this work is so important. Most importantly, I want to thank my wife, Casey. You have been my constant companion. You had a great career as a mother, wife, and teacher. Your love and support have allowed me to dedicate the time needed to my law practice and achieve the results I did for my clients. Without you, none of this would have been possible. We made a pretty incredible life together, and I wouldn't change any of it. Again, thanks for this recognition. I truly appreciate it from the bottom of my heart.
Congratulations, Jim, on a well-deserved career achievement award. MTLA is very proud of you and everything you've done on our behalf, too. So thank you on behalf of MTLA. I regret to inform you that we've made it to the final award of the night, and in doing so in record time, I believe. So here we go. I would like to invite Nicole Seifert up to present our Trial Lawyer of the Year award.
Thank you, Al. Good evening. It's my honor to present this year's Trial Lawyer of the Year award to my classmate, my friend, and my colleague. MTLA's mission is to uphold and improve the adversary system by trial by jury. And I can tell you that no one embodies this mission, especially this year, more than Justin Stalpaes. If you're a regular member of MTLA, you're very familiar with Justin. He's the same helpful and brilliant legal mind than he was in law school. He's the first person to hop on the listserv to send you a brief or some opinion. He's the first person to connect you with an expert or another attorney who can help you. He's kind, and most of all, he's humble. Celebrating with Justin tonight are his kids. Murray, there he is. Murray's 10. He really enjoys The Simpsons, and he's a great skier and water skier. Your dad got to tell me a lot about you when we were trying a case for 2 weeks here in Missoula. Also here is Rowan, who's 7. Rowan's the artist of the family. He's very proud of his dad and the work that his dad's been doing. And then there's Eva, who annoys her brothers. Exactly. And she has her stuffed animal here that her dad's going to bring up when he gets his award. They're annoying her. Got it. During the 2-week trial that Justin and I had together, he missed his kids terribly, and he had to leave before the verdict came because his kids had been in the emergency room. And that will show you the kind of priorities that Justin has in his life. Also here, celebrating with Justin, is his wife, Lindsay Beck, also a brilliant legal mind who I got to attend law school with. Lindsay, we all know that we can't succeed unless we have support at home. And Justin is so lucky to have you as his wife, and he also talks about you constantly. Justin comes from one of the best law firms in Missoula, or in Montana. The Beck, Amsden, and Stalpaes firm has a reputation as one of the best plaintiffs' firms in Montana, and for good reason. The work that I've done with Justin, his whole law firm is a team. if I were to call anyone in the law firm and ask them a question on a case that Justin and I had been working on, every single person in that firm would know about the case, and they could help me with the issue. Every paralegal, every legal staff, and every single attorney. So I know that Justin couldn't have done the work he did this year without you guys, and he really appreciates all of your work. I've gotten to know Monty Beck, John Amsden, Sydney Best, and Cotter Bottomley with the work that we've done this year. When Justin and I were on the case against the University of Montana, they were constantly answering questions late at night, working on PowerPoint presentations, changing up some of the deposition excerpts that we had. They truly are a Class A firm, so thank you to that firm. Justin has been a lawyer for 15 years, and he's tried numerous cases to juries. It's not always been under the best of circumstances. He takes difficult cases. When Alex Raitt from the ACLU calls him up, he says yes. He says yes even when he has to take on the whole judiciary, and when he wants to get prisoners out of prison during COVID, Justin said yes, knowing that he would likely lose that case. When the ACLU called because the legislature silenced Zoe Zephyr, Justin said yes, I'll take that case, knowing that he's likely to lose, because that's what we do as trial lawyers, is we say yes when we know something wrong has happened, even if we know that we might lose. Justin tries cases in big jurisdictions, small jurisdictions, big cases, small cases, and he's had to miss verdicts, to see his kids, to go to a funeral of a dying parent. He's a dad and a husband first, but when he's pulled away, it's to help his clients. And he helps his clients go through some of the hardest things they've ever had to go through. Every year at this convention, we celebrate the big wins, and this year is no different. Justin had a year where he got the biggest verdict in Gallatin County, but he did so after losing 2 hard-fought trials. And he continued despite those devastating losses. I want to talk briefly about those cases. So in December, Justin came here to Missoula to take on Community Medical Center. He helped his client who lost a child during childbirth. And for 2 weeks, he went through numerous fetal rate monitoring strips and the science behind fetal bradycardia. And at the close of evidence, Justin argued that Community Medical Center breached the standard of care by ignoring the plain signs of fetal bradycardia and impending uterine rupture, which ultimately resulted in a child's death and the mother's uterine rupture. And over the objection of the trial court gave the jury instruction on negligence. I want to read to you what the jury instruction was. A physician is not negligent just merely because she errs in judgment in the matter for which she is engaged. I'm going to read that again. A physician is not negligent just merely because she errs in judgment in the matter for which she was engaged. So based on that jury instruction, Justin had to prove that the physician intentionally killed the baby. During the closing of that case, Community Medical Center had nurses fill the gallery, and Justin and his team took a crushing loss with a defense verdict hours later. 2 weeks later, Justin was back in Missoula County, trying another case. This case, the next case he took on, was against the University of Montana. And it was the first class action lawsuit to go to a jury trial in the state. I got to try that case with Justin. We had some unfortunate timing. The trial started the Monday after the Grizzly football team had gone to the national championship, a fact that defense counsel pointed out constantly and wore his U of M tie. Now, I know Justin from law school here at the University of Montana, and that didn't dissuade him from taking on his alma mater. And it didn't dissuade him because Justin does what's right, even in the face of hardship. For 2 weeks, I watched Justin take on the administration at the University of Montana, and he proved that the University of Montana sold students' finances and private information to a predatory third-party loan servicer, all for the University of Montana's gain. University of Montana offered no evidence to the contrary. Nevertheless, the trial court refused to enter a directed verdict that UM breached its fiduciary duty to students, and they let the question go to the Missoula jury. The jury returned a defense verdict for the local university on that issue with a vote of 8-4. One of the jurors later told us that she immediately felt remorse on the way she voted when the judge read the verdict. Following the verdict, the defense counsel sent out questionnaires after the trial asking the jurors who they would rather have represent them, the defense counsel with 98 jury trials under his belt, or Justin. And the jurors said Justin. I can't agree more. Justin took on the very school that gave him his Juris Doctorate and represented 34,000 clients, and he did so valiantly. After the university case, Justin had to head back to Bozeman, and he couldn't sit there and lick his wounds and feel sorry for himself or drink himself into oblivion after 2 hard losses. No, he had to get back to work. And this time, Justin and his team spent 2 weeks proving a luxury Big Sky resort caused their client serious brain injury and killed her new husband by failing to place a carbon monoxide detector in their guest room and failing to adequately maintain a poison gas emitting boiler next door. Justin and his team took home a $15 million verdict for his clients. Now, Justin's $15 million verdict is the largest in Gallatin County, but that's not why he's getting Trial Lawyer of the Year this year. Justin is receiving this award in recognition for his dogged pursuit of justice in Montana's courtrooms and in front of Montana juries, even after the suffocating shadow of loss. Justin courageously took his clients and their cases to trial when that choice came at the possibility and probability of professional loss. Justin embodies the principles that we as an organization stand for. Our mission, again, is to uphold and improve the adversary system by trial by jury. Regardless of the results, Justin advances our clients' mission and our collective mission by doing good work in the courtroom over and over and over again, even in the shadow of loss. And Justin deserves our celebration. So in the words of Bart Simpson, this is for Murray, there's only one thing you can do in a moment like that, and it's to strut. Come get your award, Justin.
Thank you. That was really nice. And Nicole hit it just right that it's absolutely, it is 100% always a team effort. And I'm so glad I have my team here. First and foremost, I just got to say thank you to my wife, Lindsay. She's beautiful, she's wonderful. She's funny and she's everything, so thank you. On a totally unrelated note, I was glad to get a job at the Beck firm. And I couldn't have been taught by 2 better guys than Monty and John. And I owe you guys a debt of gratitude. You taught me how to do it, you brought me up, and I appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. And John, I couldn't ask for a better law partner, especially considering the relatively terrible financial decisions that I've put us through over the past calendar year. But I can't tell you both how much I appreciate you. All right, now I want to brag on Sydney Best a little bit, because all 3 of these cases, there's no way I'm up here, because they don't get to trial, period, full stop. And if I get to trial, pardon my word, my French, but it's a shitty case that we'd get to trial because there'd be nothing left. Sydney is the intellectual force at the firm. She is the heir apparent. I keep trying to talk her into it, to amicus committee. She's the one that drives all of those hard discussions that we have at the firm. She will be amongst the best, if not the best, lawyers in the state of Montana, and I trust her implicitly on everything we do. During the trial, I forget which one it was, Sid. One of the trials she wasn't at because she was defending her own verdict in it was San Francisco at the Ninth Circuit, a verdict that she got the year before, her and Mike, in federal court. But then she's back, crafting exam outlines, writing trial briefs, and helping out with jury instructions and all of that. And Connor, my right hand during the trials, I'm so proud of you. You heard from Connor earlier today. The future is in good hands with both of you guys, and I just couldn't be more proud of you both and to have you on the team. And I would also be remiss not to mention Caitlin. You heard about her earlier, our paralegal who's been there nearly a decade, who literally poured her heart and soul, especially into the first trial. I don't think she slept for a month. Vivian, who Nicole was saying that we'd call Viv at 9 o'clock at night and she'd run into the office to change a video, change a demonstrative exhibit. I can't tell you guys how lucky I am to have that kind of support, and then I get to be up here. But make no mistake, everybody poured their hearts into it. Everybody stayed up late. Everybody stressed. Everybody's families suffered, and that was the most important thing. I get to be up here, but certainly the sacrifice was borne by all. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention my friends David and Skip, who I tried the Hudgens case with. I was lucky beyond words to be invited to try that case with them. You'll find no finer lawyers, but more importantly, they were exceedingly generous and kind and trusting. I also want to acknowledge, and I didn't know Nicole was going to make this introduction or speech until today, until right now, but I was going to brag about you anyway. But I got to try a case with a phenomenal trial lawyer, Nicole Seifert. Before voir dire, which Nicole picked the jury in the Knutson case, Nicole told me that she was nervous. And what I learned about Nicole was that she deals with her nerves by being super charismatic and calm, which is a good skill to have. And it was so much fun under tough circumstances with a tough zero-offer case, and I was glad to do that with you. I'm nervous, I gotta turn my page. On the Hudgens case, typically the recipient of this award talks about their case. I was thinking about what to say about it. I want to say something helpful. That's what this organization is about. During the Hudgens trial, when I was out of my depth on an issue that I hadn't dealt with before, who do I call but Dave Slovak, who picks up the phone and talks me through something that I didn't know how to do. And that's what this is about. It's about being helpful. Now, there were egregious facts, and if anybody hears about this case through mediations or whatever, there are egregious facts to it. But I want to tell you this, because I do want to be helpful up here if I can. What drove that verdict was not the egregiousness of the facts that you may hear about, the planting of the carbon monoxide detector after the fact. What drove the case, and I know this from talking to all of those jurors whom I called after sending them a letter after the verdict, it was the failure to take responsibility. We heard about it here today in a lot of the presentations, Bruce, your presentation, the failing to take responsibility. In fact, the foreman of that jury, a guy named Ryan Trenka, I talked to him, and he told me flat out, the planting of the carbon monoxide detector after Catherine had been poisoned and Lou was dead didn't factor into his damage calculation at all, of $15 million for these folks. Because, as he astutely observed, well, that happened after all the harm was done anyway. It wasn't relevant to them. What was relevant was the continual denial of responsibility through the trial, the sorry but not sorry, blaming our client for not doing enough to get better, blaming others, the crocodile tears that were expressed only at the end of trial. That's what drove that verdict. So that's what you can tell people when you hear that that case is an outlier. And while, if you go out and you try cases, while you may lose, you may find that jury that wants to hold defendant accountable and publicly accountable, because that's what jury trials are all about. And that dynamic exists everywhere. Now finally, I want to talk about losing, because I got to do some of that this year. And I've got to do some of that in other years too. Now, trial work is a gamble. It is. And while I hope to God it never happens to anybody here in this room, it's going to happen to me again. But one of the most important things I've learned is not to believe that everything you do in a win is the right way to do it, or everything that you did in the loss is the wrong way to do it. You got to dispel yourselves of that notion. There's no experience, no learning experience like losing, but God, does it hurt. It hurts so bad. But on a personal note, I want to thank my kids, Murray, Rowan, and Eva, for getting me through those times. Nobody cheers me up like you three. And now, while I have your attention, I want you to know that you are surrounded by some of the most successful people in this state. You're surrounded by the finest lawyers in the state, by past, present, and future judges and representatives of our government. And if you were to go around and you were to ask all of these fine people what it is that made them such a success, I'm quite sure, you three, that each and every one of them would tell you that it is because every single day, and ideally twice a day, they brush their teeth, okay? So we'll see if that sticks. Thank you, everybody, for the award. It really, really, really means a lot. It was a fun year. Thank you very much, and good luck.
Hello, friends. Just really quickly, you guys have been hearing me gush about Stacy all day and frankly all year, but turns out, because John Heenan's not here, I get to give you the clock, and I am actually delighted to do so. Because you guys, I really want you to know, Stacy has been a really, really exceptional leader. I think she's had really amazing control and voice in the board meetings. We've had some things come up this year, and she has navigated it fiercely. And she talks about work comp being the stepchild, but it's just not true. She advocates for more people every year Tom Murphy's the only person in this room who competes with her in terms of aspects in the real people's lives, and I just applaud. Work comp is really the soul of our organization, and she's really good at it. And friends, we really should have a deep gratitude for her leadership this year. And with that, can everyone just join me and really celebrate Stacy Temple St. John for being an excellent MTLA president and this really cool clock that she gets. So anyhow, thank you, Stacy. So much.
Thank you, everyone. As you've heard all night, none of us can do this alone, and I certainly want to express my gratitude for the board itself. They have helped me for welcoming me in, 10-ish years ago, when it was just Andre and I as the only females on the board. And we've expanded our female group, and we now have a women's law caucus. So super proud of those achievements that, again, I wouldn't have had without the board. Also want to thank, and I think we all should thank, really the heart and soul of MTLA, which none of us could get by without Al and Mary. They are the driving force of the MTLA, and I don't know what any of us would do without them. So I would like to thank them and have us all thank Al and Mary. And thank you all. You're excused to the bar or wherever else you plan on going tonight. Oh, those of you that are part of the stepchild work comp section, you can't stay out very late because our breakfast's at 7 a.m. So be there. Thank you.